You guys have transformed the lives of thousands of underprivileged children over the past 27, 30 years, right? So, can you share the most moving story of transformation that you have witnessed wherein, okay, you felt, yes, I did the right thing?
One of the children, at the age of 4, we went to interview in the hut, and the mother was with the child, and we found that the child was suitable to taken because the mother is very poor, she's living alone. And 2 months later, we went back to the hut in the village to find her, and she wasn't there. And then we looked for her, nobody would open their mouths. And finally, somebody told the child and the mother are not there, to go to a hospital. And when we went to the hospital, we found out that the mother had burned herself and died.
You emphasize on educating girls as one of the most powerful ways to lift communities out of poverty. So, what makes this focus so crucial, especially in the context of India's social structure?
I felt after having gone through the kind of education I had, both in Indian academy as well as in America, breaking the caste or social injustice, breaking social injustice is through economic opportunity, not the other way around. Don't try to break social injustice so that they can have an economic opportunity. That doesn't work. Give them the economic opportunity, they'll break the sun. I didn't tell you the last part of that story. I was blown up in a dynamite explosion and I was injured. And I asked myself the question, why did I survive? If I was a fraction of a second late, I would have.
So, folks, you have tuned into TGV and hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series, the world's only quadrilingual podcast at this moment of recording. And we are trying to embark into multiple languages as we speak. And here we embark on transformative conversations for a better future. And we want to simplify and amplify your journey to success. I'm your host, Navin Samala, dedicated to making the world a better place by bringing you wisdom through valuable discussions with experts designed to simplify and amplify your success. And thank you so much for tuning in. So, folks, today we are joined by Dr. Abraham George. He's a visionary philanthropist, social entrepreneur, and founder of the Shanti Bhavan School, which has transformed the lives of thousands of underprivileged children in India since 1997. And with an MBA, MS, and PhD from New York University's Stern School of Business, Dr. George has transitioned from a successful career in finance to a life dedicated to social change, which is not that easy. And he has impacted over 15,000 lives through education, healthcare, and journalism projects, including Shanti Bhavan, the Indian Institute of Journalism and New Media, and the Baldev Medical Center. He's featured in the Netflix documentary Daughters of Destiny, and Dr. Abraham's work focuses on breaking the cycle of poverty and caste in India, with a particular emphasis on empowering girls through education. And we are really honored and humbled to have him share his incredible journey and insights with us today. So, Dr. Abraham, it is really a pleasure to have you on the show. And before we get into our conversation on the topic at hand, breaking cycles and how you are empowering generations through education and social change, here is an exciting twist. I would like to trigger the first rapid fire round just to add fun element to the episode. So I'm going to mention a few random words, and as and when you hear those words, I request you to respond to them crisply, whatever comes to your mind in response without thinking much. If you're ready, let's get started.
Thank you, Naveen. Thank you for the nice words about me. I'm nervous about this quiz that you're putting me through, but I'll see what I can say.
Hello, I'm Steve Ahern, one of the judges of the Asia Podcast Awards. I'm interrupting this episode to let you know that you're listening to an award-winning podcast. This podcast won its category in the 2024 Podcast Awards, so you know you're listening to quality. Enjoy your listening experience, and congratulations to the team who created this award-winning podcast for you.
All right. No, it is going to be real easy and it will be a cakewalk for you. And my first word for you is curiosity.
Curiosity is wanting to know something that you don't know and wanting to discover.
Wow. Invention.
Invention is a product of trying to innovate something, and it comes from a lot of hard work. You don't invent something just like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my next word for you is future.
Future is something that you make by hard work, commitment, and dedication.
Universe.
Universe is something we cannot comprehend on our own, that beyond what astronomers and scientists have offered, but it's an infinite concept, something to be discovered.
Next is leadership.
Leadership is a product of your ability to communicate, motivate, inspire, uh, and projecting your own personality.
Wow. I love your definition of leadership. It's super inspiring. And my next word is role model.
They the people are great for what they do, uh, not by what they have achieved in life. And so one has to look at the accomplishments rather than um, some title or something they have currently. What have they accomplished in their life? That's a person you should be aspiring to emulate.
Awesome. Empowerment.
We always talk about empowering your employees, empowering people who uh, who are your subordinates. I feel empowerment is something that you have to uh, carry out for uh, for people who are not in a position to project themselves. Poor people, people who don't have the ability uh, to stand out. And if you empower them or tell them and make them feel that they too have the power to accomplish things, uh, it can make a big difference.
Okay. Resilience.
Resilience is a product of, in my opinion, of persistence and never give up, uh, keep coming back uh, to accomplish what you set out to do.
Okay. Great. And then education.
Education is beyond what you learn from books. Education is a life experience. Yeah, of course, you need to know the facts as you learn from books, but it is also what you learn from your interactions with other people.
Mhm. Persistence.
Well, there is no substitute for persistence if you want success. You have to keep working at it until you succeed.
Absolutely. Recently, I delivered a TEDx talk on persistence. It is the persistence of 1610 days and beyond. My own journey of podcasting ever since I started in April 2020. So you have very well articulated. And my last word for you is community.
Community is not just where you belong, it is the people you surround with. It can be strangers that you met or you live with. It is something you create for yourself. Don't get confined to your own blood relatives and people like that. Reach out beyond that.
Amazing. I loved all your insights from the first rapid fire round. And there is one more rapid fire round towards the end of the episode. And thank you so much for participating in that. And first of all, Dr. Abraham, thank you once again for being part of our journey in shaping the careers and lives of millions across the globe. How are you doing today?
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right. So we'll get the ball rolling. We'll begin with your guiding voice. Talk to us about who is your guiding voice.
When I was a young man, I was in the military, Indian artillery, and I was stationed in one of the highest mountains in the Himalayas. It is 14,000 feet. At that time, it was the highest battleground anywhere. That is the passage through which the Chinese military attacked India in the northeast frontier. While I was there in very difficult environment, snowfall, lack of oxygen, and everything else, uh, I didn't really have much to do other than make sure that the work was getting done. The soldiers, under my supervision, were doing things, and as an officer, you are just observing. I decided to read a couple of books, and the first book that I read was by Albert Schweitzer. He was someone who um, wanted to serve poor people, tribal people in the country of Gabon, and he went through winding rivers in a small little boat with supplies. He was a doctor, and he established in Gabon in the forest, cleared some woods and established. And I found his experience. He went on to win the Nobel Prize, by the way. I found his experience living in a place where he could talk to them in any language of theirs, with elephants and other animals there. And he established a clinic and started treating the tribals who were falling sick from many tropical diseases. And then he went on for the rest of his life, 30, 40 years. I found it not just the nobility of his work, but I found the whole thing very romantic, actually. Going somewhere in no man's land and interacting with these people. It inspired me tremendously. It was a guiding light. The other is Bertrand Russell. He's a philosopher, modern day philosopher. He's no more there. I think he's died some 20 years ago. And there, I was an officer in the military and assigned to kill the enemy. And there was a line in his book, History of the Western Philosophy, or something like that was the name of the book. Bertrand Russell writes that there is nothing right about a war. It is about who is left. There is nothing right about a war. It is about who is left. That shook me up. You kill everybody. Who is standing after that? And I started examining what I'm doing. Those were my guiding lights.
So profound stories, and honestly I'm coming across those two things for the very first time, so thank you for enlightening me. And now talk to us about your success mantra, as in top 3 things that have contributed to your success so far, because empowering 15,000 lives is no small feat. I think you need a lot of courage and so many things, right? So I would like to hear from you.
Well, I had 3 lives actually. One was my military life. I went to, as you pointed out, NDA and all that, and an officer in the 1960s, actually, soon after the Chinese invasion of India, Sino-Indian War. And there, in very difficult circumstances, actually, I was the first one to be sent up there with the soldiers to establish the gun positions. And there are days when 30, 40-year-old soldiers cry because their fingers are frostbitten, their toes are frostbitten, and we had to stay there day and night and work and dig those bunkers and so on to go underground. That was the assignment. And as a young man, I was hardly 18, hardly 18. And that was a period when I realized that I need to inspire and be there for the soldiers and win them over. And there are a number of things we don't have probably time. That was one experience. And the second, that, inspiring people, winning them over, they see you as someone who's committed to them. The second was my 25 years of business in America, in Wall Street. And that was when I arrived in 1969. After my, education, I worked for a couple of years for a bank, JP Morgan, and then started my own company. Now, remember, in the early 1970s, what was America like, and who was the Indians? I was one of the first Indians to come to America. I could walk around in New York City, I wouldn't run into a single Indian guy. Today, every street you will run into somebody. Uh, and I started my company, had to compete with major banks and an of Indian origin. And my accent is somewhat different from the Western accent. Um, and I had to win them over again. And I used to have someone who works with me, a white American. I remember this story. And everywhere I went to, every company where I was trying to sell the application I had developed, they wouldn't be looking at me, they would be looking at him. So I asked someone who was quite a mature guy in sales. He said, Abraham, don't worry. You are in a good position because you are at the bottom. You cannot go any lower. You can only go up, you know. That really made a big difference. And I followed that, and I tried to impress uh, by what I knew subject wise, and also by being, someone they like, because people don't want to buy something from someone they don't like. So you have to win them over. And that was a secret of my success in America. My company, from the basement of my apartment, we were in the United States, London, Brussels, a few other places. So now comes the real part. Last 30 years, I've been in this remote village. I live here 10 months in a year. For 2 months, I go to America. For the first 25 years, my wife was in America because she had a job. So we were living apart, 25 years. Like, all the credit goes to her for putting up with me, the guy who just disappears. Now she's with me for the last 5 years. And this period is one where I undertook a number of projects. One, of course, is the school that you mentioned, Shanti Bhavan, where there are right now some 400 children in the school, and another couple of hundred have graduated. And the thing about children, you take on the responsibility at the age of 3.5 or 4, and parents leave the children with you, and they are with me for 5 months, and they go on a vacation for 1 month, again come back. And how do you motivate the children to be successful academically? How do you make them leaders? And lastly, how do you turn them out into people of good character, moral values? And that is a big struggle to win them over. And so this is something that I do every day. In fact, just before this podcast, I was with the 12th graders talking to them about what is important for them to focus on for the next 2 months. Then I had other projects. I'm running a hospital for rural poor people. Outpatient clinic, they come there. Uh, you pointed out I run a journalism college uh, for postgraduate, the master's level, where I focus on, excellence in journalism. And then uh, in 1999, we tried to persuade the government of India to introduce unleaded gasoline. And that effort took 3 years for me to bring equipment to test the blood levels of children in India. Some 22,000 children we tested all over India. And the results were published at a conference in 1999 where 25 countries represented. And here is something. I'm not even a doctor. I don't a medical doctor. Uh, I I don't have any experience in lead poisoning, and all the world's experts came over. What I had was my commitment. You asked me that word, commitment. Commitment. They could see that I meant business. I want to change the situation. Then unleaded gasoline has to come to India. And so I tried for 3 years, and the conference took place. Would you believe the three major oil companies sent their managing directors to the conference and announced at the conference that within 18 months, India will be unleaded. And in year 2000, uh, India started offering unleaded gasoline. So the point is, there are different aspects of your life, and everything boils down to leadership, the word you use, your commitment, that's another, your sincerity, and being honest all the time, and winning over other people. These are things I constantly teach my young children in the school.
And Dr. Abraham, you have had incredible journey again from the Indian Army to finance to social entrepreneurship, right? What was the turning point in your life that led you to devote yourself entirely to social change? Because for last 30 years, again, that too, you are apart from your wife, right? So you again, as mentioned, like I think we need to give kudos to your wife. It is not that easy, right, to stay away from the family, and even families responsibility, like I would say families flexibility, right, also matters a lot. But I would like to hear from you in terms of what actually motivated you to do this one.
Well, as I pointed out, I thought my career was about being an officer and maybe one day become a general. And after those two books that I read and being in the mountain, by the way, I didn't tell you the last part of that story. I was blown up in a dynamite explosion and I was injured. And I asked myself the question, why did I survive? If I was a fraction of a second late, I would have been killed. The the you're blowing the Himalayas mountain boulders, and they was just flying. I turned around and I escaped. I jumped. Um, so I felt that there must be a reason, and I committed myself that one day in the future I'll serve other people, and that was a commitment I made at the age of 18. But then I looked at myself and I said, first I have to get out of the army, which was a very tough thing after getting trained in NDA. And I was 21 when I was able to leave the army. Um, and I knew at that time that if I'm going to serve other people, I must have the financial ability to get things started. Maybe if I can demonstrate what I have done, like Shanti Bhavan, first 15 years, I didn't ask anyone for any money. I had made money in my business 25 years ago. So I could demonstrate to the world outside that I have accomplished, I mean business, the children are doing well, all that is true. Then it became easy for me to raise money. And today, fundraising, we do constantly. Um, and so the point is this, it's in phases. Uh, Initial impact, I wanted to do something. Second stage, try to make the money to do it. And third stage is commitment to the cause. And whether your wife is there or not, she allowed me, and that made it easy. And she was there to support me over the phone. And 30 years have passed.
Superb. I would love to interview your wife because there is a lot to learn from her. And definitely, yeah, I would love to host her. All right. So, moving forward, again, talking about this Shanti Bhavan, right? It is giving me goosebumps. Like you guys have transformed the lives of thousands of underprivileged children over the past 27, 30 years, right? So, can you share the most moving story of transformation that you have witnessed, wherein okay, you felt yes, I did the right thing.
Every child's story is a story of the child overcoming the hurdles. Uh, over 60% of our children don't have fathers. Okay, because the environment in which they come from, they get the mothers, that have been married at 14, 16, in rural areas, and then they have couple of kids, and then the husband moves on, goes with some other woman. I am not even sure whether they really have a wedding ceremony, but anyway, uh, and so the children are growing up, with the stepfather or some other man living there, and so on. They are exposed to sexual violence. They are exposed to the man trying to pour kerosene and set her fire on fire, to beating her up, poverty, illnesses, moneylenders calling on you, your roof leaking, on and on and on. They have survived through all these things in the first 4 years, and whenever they go home, this is what they experience. So every child's story is some variation of this one. Someone is worse than the other, but if you go with children of the bottommost in the India society, this is what I explained is what you get. People are not really aware of though that situation that a couple of 100 million people live in. Now, individual stories, I can tell you everything from uh, this. What comes to my mind is one of the uh, children. At the age of 4, we went to interview in the hut, and the mother was with the child, and we found that the child was suitable to be taken because the mother is very poor. She's living alone. And then 2 months later, we gave admission after interview and medical checkup and all that. And 2 months later, we went back to the hut in the village to find her, and she wasn't there. And then we looked for her. Nobody would open their mouths. And finally, somebody told the child and the mother are not there, to go to a hospital. And when we went to the hospital, we found out that the mother had burned herself, uh, and died. And the child, trying to put the fire off, burned his arms and parts of his body, trying to hug a 4-year-old. What happened was this woman was offered a job somewhere in the Middle East by some people who came there, and they said they have to take her to the city to fill up application. And instead of that, they gang raped her for 2, 3 days and dumped her in a ditch near the village. And when she came back to the village, all the villagers were accusing her of being a wanted woman, and she, immoral character. So she poured us kerosene and set herself. And then we took the child because we had already admitted the child. We didn't want to blame him for anything that he is not guilty of. So we had to put him through plastic surgery and few other things. And today he's a middle level manager in a major IT company. Um and initially he had a lot of trauma. He would try to climb the wall with his bare hands. Uh, we we helped him through all of that. Today is, uh, I would say, 90% stable. There is a 10% the back of his mind. I'm sure he remembers what happened to his mother, and that is very hard to get rid of.
All right, so this is so emotional, and let's move forward. And you emphasize on educating girls, right, as one of the most powerful ways to lift communities out of poverty. So, what makes this focus so crucial, especially in the context of India's social structure?
See, if you go back to my young days, education was emphasized, but World Bank and others were talking about literacy program, and they would publish, India has the X percent of the people literate, and they thought the aid foreign aid and World Bank helping and things like that will lift people out of poverty, and only to realize later on that literacy doesn't get you anywhere. If you can read a signpost and add 1 plus 1, you are literate according to the government statistics. And the bureaucrats who go there, or people who go to the village and take the statistics, God knows what they do. But anyway, uh, I felt after having gone through the kind of education I had, both in Indian academy as well as in America, uh, I realized that education gives you opportunity to succeed. Opportunity is the key word. And excellence in education gives you excellent opportunity. Just because you're literate or you went to primary school and you're called, educated, doesn't get you anywhere. Especially in today's world, your artificial intelligence and everything else. Uh, and therefore, I felt what I should be doing is offer the same opportunity as my two sons had, excellence in education. Second conviction I had was the caste system. The will never go away. It has been there for 1,500 years, and it will never go away by preaching to anyone, an upper caste person or a person of privilege, or treat the lower, so-called lower caste people well. They are not going to. Human beings are, generally speaking, they make use of other people. Oppression is part of the human nature. So I felt that the way to solve the caste problem, and remember, it's 30 years ago, I'm coming back here with this conviction, is not by going and trying to deal with caste directly. I, if I can offer the people at the bottom the same opportunity as someone else to succeed in life, they will break out of the caste system by their success. They will have great jobs one day. Who is going to know, a Microsoft executive belongs to, some low caste or something. They have the financial means. So the path to uh, breaking the caste or social injustice, breaking social injustice is through economic opportunity, not the other way around. Don't try to break the social injustice so that they can have an economic opportunity. That doesn't work. Give them the economic opportunity, they'll break the sun. That was my thought.
Concur with you, and I loved your thought process. Thoroughly enjoying the conversation, and Dr. Abraham, like running multiple social projects like Shanti Bhavan and then IIJNM and also Bhaldev Medical Center. Right, it comes with its own share of challenges. So I'm curious to know from you, like, how do you stay motivated and overcome obstacles while staying true to your mission?
All the projects I have undertaken, uh, whether it is the hospital, whether it is empowering women with, I had over 100 or 150 acres of banana plantation to employ women at one time. And then the water levels went down. We were drilling wells to pump the water, and there was drought in this area. So I had to abandon that project. We do housing for the poor. There are a number of things I do. They are interrelated. Uh, they are within two broad areas. One is poverty alleviation. The other is social justice. Okay, so everything I did are interconnected. You Poverty has many dimensions. One of them is they are unable to get proper medical care. They are sick all the time. They can't afford it. So hospital, what I was running for in the rural area was very important. Um, Even journalism was important because I feel one of the reasons poverty exists is bad governance. And bad governance is because people are unaware of what goes on in the country. So if the press would speak up and publish people like you, inviting people like me to speak up, then there is a chance that the public will get aware of what's going on, and they'll put political pressure on their leaders, and hopefully it will change. But today I'm a little unsure of that for whatever reason. I don't want to make any anything that will upset people. Um, but journalism has not been able to impact the way I thought it would have. So I was turning out good journalists, hoping that they will go out with a fire in the belly and do investigative work and publish things about corrupt people they are not able to do. So they are all interrelated. The only area that might look like not related is lead poisoning, unleaded gasoline, introduction of that. And I worked on it for 3-4 years and was able to motivate the oil companies to bring in unleaded gasoline. And then we worked on paint, lead paint, and uh, pots and pans coated with lead. There are so many other sources. We worked on all these things. Um, that area, you could say, is not related to my core mission. Okay. Core mission being poverty, but again, it affects, it affects poor people more than rich people, because they're living right next to the lead smeltering plant and the dumping that takes place, and they get lead poisoning more than anyone else. So in some ways, everything you do in life is interconnected. In this case, for poverty and social justice.
Great. And now it's time for us to talk about your upcoming book about Shanti Bhavan. So, can you give us a sneak peek into it? What is the key message you hope readers take away from it?
Well, I've seen that you have done some research on me. Okay. I wrote a book some 10 years ago called India Untouched. That book was written when the government at that time had a slogan called India Shining. I don't know whether you remember that. There was a slogan they were going around, India Shining, and I was seeing just the opposite in the villages. So I wrote, and I came up with this title, India Untouched. India Untouched. And it became quite popular, actually. A lot of people thought it was okay. Now, I'm now more towards the last phase of my life, I guess, where I don't know how many years I have left, but I want to leave a, a legacy of some sort where the younger people can carry forward. And so I decided to write a book which is autobiographical. People often ask me, what made you do all these things? Did something happen in childhood? Did some event happen? Or did you have a revelation? God appeared before you, or whatever. Things that uh, I try to say to them, I'm an ordinary man. I have not seen God or anything like that. So I try to explain to people the experience that I had through all these different careers. And I wrote this autobiography in the form of stories, little stories, events that took place in my life. So each chapter is a collection of events. They're connected, but what happened? Whether it is my childhood, how my parents, brought me up, and in explaining that, I had stories. And all the way to today, today's stories are more about the children I bring up and their lives and how I try to impact them. So this book is, uh, if I may reveal the name of the book title, is Mountains to Cross. Some people may think that it's some mountain I'm crossing, but no, mountains to cross is obstacles that you have to overcome. And the subtitle of the book is going to be um, How Do You Find Purpose? Something to that effect. I don't exactly recollect um, people are looking for purpose in their lives. A lot of people have made lots of money. Some of them think that the purpose is to make some more money. Maybe, maybe that's good for them. But there are many other people who have made money and say, "Hey, still trying to do this, and I'm not really happy inside. How do I find purpose?" And I try to tell them in my book that you will find fulfillment. You will find great amount of joy, not in trying to make something, even fancier house or a fancier car. None of those things is going to do that for you. That's very, very momentary. When you touch lives and you see how you have been able to impact the lives of others, and how you have transformed their lives, it's not about you, it's about someone else. If you can focus on someone else and try to improve their lives, then you will automatically find purpose, you'll automatically find happiness. And we talk about what a human being should be. When you see someone's not doing well, like a beggar came on the street to you, and you may feel sorry, sympathy. That's the first reaction. And oh, poor thing. And then you walk away. Your sympathy, then it can be empathy. Then you suddenly put yourself into the shoes of that beggar. Oh, she must be having a hard time, without food. She must be um, uh, difficulty walking or something. You're gone from sympathy to one more level where you are in that person's shoes somewhat. Then you like come to a third stage, which is compassion. Oh, she's suffering so much. I must do something for her to give her some comfort. So people talk about compassion, and I try to make a point in my book that none of those things make a difference to the other person unless you're willing to act on it. So compassion in action is all that matters. Everything, your sympathy, your empathy, even your compassion don't count. It's make you feel good. I'm a compassionate person. Uh, that may be there for you, but it hasn't done anything for someone else unless you're willing to act. And that act will be your service, your money, your dedication to making their lives better.
I love it, and I'm sure it's gonna be a bestseller. And I'm looking forward to the book release. I love the title.
I hope you call me on your program when the time comes.
Absolutely, I would love to do that. I would love to do that, and we can discuss more on that book. But I love the title, Mountains to Cross. And recently, I read a book called "Obstacle Is the Way" by Ryan Holiday, and I got super inspired because every chapter I read through, I can reflect on my own journey in terms of building my platform into a multilingual podcast. And I could sense that. And your title is so profound, Mountains to Cross. It is something intriguing. And I wish you all the best on that book. And Dr. Abraham, this has been incredibly insightful conversation. And it's time for us to add some more spice and some more excitement to the episode, which means it's time for us to kick off the second rapid fire round. If you're ready, let's get the ball rolling.
What do I have to do?
Same thing, I'm going to ask you some interesting questions and respond to them without thinking so much. Okay?
You
Okay.
don't give me a chance to think.
Exactly. That's the intent. Yeah. So here comes my first bullet out of second rapid fire round. If you could have one gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say?
Gigantic billboard. It would be find purpose in your life through compassion in action.
Wow. Wow. Find purpose in your life through compassion and action. Awesome. And can you describe yourself in just one word?
Describe myself. I would use the word caring.
Caring. Yeah, you are indeed. And then, favorite book that inspires you? Of course, you mentioned about two books during the beginning, other than those.
Lately, I've been always reading autobiographies. Uh, I, there's one book that was a compilation of the conversation, the interview I had with Archbishop Edmund Tutu. He was a leader of South African freedom struggle, Edmund Tutu, and the other person was Dalai Lama. The conversation, and it was all about joy. How do you find joy in your life? And I found it somewhat interesting. And they were talking about their lives and what makes you joyful. And the other book the three books I'm going to mention. The second book was by uh, Goodall. Goodall is a woman now in her 80s or 90s. Uh, she lived with the chimpanzees in the African jungle. She is the one famous um, for discovering that chimpanzees are smarter than we think, and they how they communicate and everything. She lived with them in the jungle for 20-30 years, and she wrote a book called Hope. One word, Hope, and I found that extremely enlightening. And the third book I'm right now reading is by the former prime minister. She passed away. Her name is Golda Meir. Golda Meir was a female prime minister during the time of Yom Kippur War, when the Arabs invaded Israel. Uh, the Israelis were celebrating their holiday of Yom Kippur. They didn't expect the war and almost lost the state of Israel. The Egypt, Syria, uh, Iraq, all of them, Lebanon, all of them invaded at the same time. And there was a general called Moshe Dayan. He has only one eye. He has a black patch on his eyes. And he felt that Israeli army could be defeated by this invasion. They were not prepared. And so he went straight to Golda Meir. And this is a great event. He went into the prime minister's office and said, I want you to consider preparing to use a nuclear bomb. And because we could get killed. All of us will be, if we are defeated, they will kill everyone. Because the Iran and others were talking about killing all the Jews. She said, I can't do that. He said, why? Well, we lived through the Holocaust, and we lived through a period when the Germans didn't have any value towards our life. And you are asking me to use a nuclear bomb on our enemy. They may be our enemy, but I can't do that. So he kept on arguing. He said, General, get out of my office. So he went to the door and he turned around, pulled a small packet from his pocket, a small packet, and gave it to her. He said, what is it? He said, it is cyanide. If they ever enter this place, please take it. Don't let yourself be alive if you're caught. But what appealed to me is her saying, even if she's going to be defeated, she's not going to do what what they did on Holocaust. And that I felt was a noble gesture. And she talks about from the German ghettos coming up and escaping and all of that. It's a fabulous book. I would ask anyone wishes to learn about history, about this lady. I think she's the second or third female prime ministers of any country, Golda Meir. And if I have the book right here, I don't have the book right here. And the book is titled, if I give me 1 second, um, hmm, I can't. Just Google on Golda Meir, Prime Minister, and you'll get My Life. My Life. My Life is
My life. Okay. Amazing. Thank you for those bonus options.
There are other books like Obama wrote his book, his biography. I'm not interested in all these fellows coming up and all the gossip they're put out. A White House tenure, and it doesn't appeal to me.
All right, so let's keep moving. And what is the most rewarding moment at Shanti Bhavan?
Always the rewarding moment is when you realize that your original dream of what you want for the children is really happening. Okay. 30 years ago, I spoke at the opening ceremony that the children were only 3.5, 4 years of age, and there was a large audience there. I said, one day, these children will succeed in a way that they will go on to great jobs. They will go on to study in great schools or anywhere in the world. They can be employed by IBM India. They can be employed by IBM New York. It doesn't matter. These children, from the poorest to the poor, will have the potential to succeed. But I had no evidence that that could be done. I was imagining, dreaming, and I thought if I do a good job, they will succeed. Now, 4 years ago, our graduating class decided to apply to admission in American universities. They are hired by companies here, in multinational companies in Bangalore and elsewhere, and they're all employed. But some kids wanted to apply, and so they prepared for the SAT exam, and they came back with 95 percentile. So they got admission. They got it. Would you believe where they are today? Princeton, Stanford, Dartmouth, University of Chicago, all these top Ivy League schools. And those schools are offering them $90,000 a year in scholarship for studying and living in their campus. When they came to me running and said, I got admission in Stanford, my God, this is like a dream come true. So that was one of my most heartwarming moments.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Superb. I think your conviction, right? That worked. And yeah, wonderful. And this a social entrepreneur that you admire. In anybody you want to share about?
There are a lot of people who have done very good things, in life. I know a lady who started an NGO to treat the lips that are deformed and all kinds of things, and she raises the money to do the surgery so you have a pleasant face. Such an important thing. That gave me the idea that all the children who graduate from Shanti Bhavan should have good teeth. So one of the things I do, I get them orthodontics work. So they have perfect teeth when they graduate. It makes a big difference to their self-confidence, if you have good teeth. That one taught me the importance of how you look. Then there are others. One person I admire is the doctor Venkataswamy in Madras. I mean, in Chennai. I think he has done a few lakhs of eye surgeries, uh, and that too at a cheap cost. He used to do like 50, 100 surgeries in a day. I don't know how he was doing cataract and this and that. How he brought such a change for such a low cost, cataract and other glaucoma and all that. A third person I admire is a social entrepreneur who happens to be my uncle. He is the one who started the Amul butter, the Amul chain. You are aware of Amul, right? The milk. He started with two cows he gave to some village in Gujarat and said, "You bring up this cow. It was brought from Australia, and I'll buy the milk from you at this price." And he started with that, and it grew into thousands of cows, and uh, and he started the cooperative. And with pretty soon, all of India became self-sufficient in milk. Previous to that, we when I was very early years, very hard to get any milk in India. So his name is Kurian. He's passed away. He won some awards from Indian government. But what I am admiring him is his persistence. How much effort he must have put in to bring these cows and get people to and buy them and then start a cooperative and sell it all over India. And today Amul, as you know, is one of the largest dairies in India.
Yeah, and especially I like their ad campaigns, very subtle, and those are related to the current affairs and all, right? So good, yeah. And they have expanded into multiple product lines as well. Yeah, that's a great story. Yeah, yeah. And what is your my next question is like, if you could change only one thing about the world, what would it?
I wish it'd be a less cruel place. You hear every day they're bombing everything and wiping out and don't have a problem waking up next day. It'd be a less cruel place and a caring, instead be a caring place. Half the world is poor and half the other half is well off. And if they would give $1 a day, there won't be the other half. They won't be poor. But you cannot get $1 a day, from those who have it. So caring and less cruel, not cruel.
Okay, and then your proudest achievement till date.
Oh, that's a very difficult one. I would say that I am able to impact the children. I have the children in my school, lead poisoning and all these things have happened, or the mountain in Himalayas, and so many things. But the biggest rewarding one is where I see the success of the children, and my effort and my ability to impact them is the most rewarding thing. I am in a way a dad for them, because a lot of them don't have dads.
Okay, and one piece of advice for young leaders.
Don't take yourself too seriously. Be humble. Work very hard. Work hard. Be humble, and think about the other person, not about yourself all the time.
Okay, and a person living or dead, you would love to have dinner with.
Dinner with ah. I certainly don't want to have dinner with too many politicians. I'm not looking for dinner with. I'm just eliminating. I'm not crazy about having dinner with Musk or all these billionaires. Um, I would like to have a dinner with someone who, in a uh, very caring way, impacting the lives of those who don't have. There are many people that I run into who are doing something like that in different levels. I enjoy talking to them, hearing what they have done, and the hardship they go through. Um, Very often it is financial hardship, and sometimes it's about the obstacles they have to cross. And so my interest is, I would have loved to have dinner with Mother Teresa. I would have loved to have dinner with someone like South African, Mandela. I would have loved to have, those types of people appeal to me, not the powerful or the leaders like that.
Got it. And here comes the last one for the second rapid fire. What is one electronic gadget that you like to see or invent yourself?
I'm a terrible user of electronic gadgets. My smartphone is only for receiving some WhatsApp messages. So that is the last thing I am interested in. I am not on any social media, but I'm very aware of all these technologies. I'm aware of it. I am very interested in artificial intelligence and so on. But I would like to think that uh, the gadget uh, makes the world safer. I'm worried about artificial intelligence and other capabilities that we offer through devices. They invade others' privacy, they cause harm. I would like to, if I could, which I know I can't, is to transform artificial intelligence capabilities offered through electronic devices um, into something will have a positive impact rather than exploit how you can exploit other people's weaknesses, get information, and market to them something that they should be, productive, useful impact on human beings. I don't know how to go about doing it, but that's something I would love to do if I could.
I love it, and I thoroughly enjoyed the second rapid fire round as well. So let's flip back to the mainstream. So, Dr. Abraham, what advice would you give to aspiring social entrepreneurs who want to make a difference but don't know where to start?
You have to be pragmatic. There are a lot of do good, do gooders, as they call it. They may have the heart, but having heart alone will not do the job. You can go and tie a bandage over someone's wound and things like that. But if you want to have a bigger impact, you have to think through this very carefully. Who are the people you're going to impact? Do I have the skill base to impact? What resources do I need? Do I have the will and staying power? Nothing is going to happen overnight. And how will I attract others to join me in the effort? You're never going to achieve by yourself anything. I have well over 120 people working with me. They are the people that make the difference. So, and some of them are senior, some of them are junior, but they are the ones who finally deliver, what you do. So, how will you motivate them? You must have the finances to demonstrate something. If you go and have nothing and you go and want to raise money, it is going to be very difficult. Nobody will trust you. But if you, luckily, I had, with my business, I had the money to do many things in the first 15 years. So they could see what I had done. And so it was easier for me. Excuse me. So my advice would be uh, plan well, uh, have a um, well thought out program, uh, find ways to raise certain capital to do what you want to do, never give up, be persevering, and win over people, especially the people you want to serve. You have to win over the poor people if you want to serve them. Uh, you have they should love you, then you can do miracles with them. I can go on with stories, but I'm just telling, if you look down at them because they are poor, then you cannot do anything. You have to respect them. You have to have a desire to impact them. Then you will do wonders.
Superb. And salute to you for all the amazing insights. I really, really enjoyed talking to you. And indeed, it's a privilege to host you on our show. And how is your experience being hosted on TGV, The Guiding Voice?
Wonderful, wonderful. You have, I'm amazed at your questions. I've not heard too many people ask me these questions. You made it, very, I had to think through very carefully in answering. You don't give me much time either. And I really enjoyed because you asked me very thoughtful, insightful questions. And you got me to think and think deeper inside rather than just narrating, I did this, I did that. You were making me think through. I admire your thoughtful way of interviewing, and it's an excellent show. Your show is wonderful, and it's so different from every other show I have been on. So, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to hosting you again after the release of Mountains to Cross. All right.
Yes, yes. Very good.
Awesome. Awesome.
Very good.
Awesome. So,
Thank you so
right. So,
much.
yeah, most welcome and pleasure to have you. So, friends, that was our episode with Dr. Abraham George. And before we jump into the fun trivia section, we have a quick request. If you have enjoyed the conversation and found it useful, request you to share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who would also like TGV, the guiding voice. So spread the knowledge and help others grow just like you have been growing. All right, now it's time for us to cruise into the trivia segment. Having had amazing conversation with Dr. Abraham, who is a hardcore philanthropist, I thought I would present you 2 lesser known facts about social entrepreneurship. And the first fact is about ancient roots of social entrepreneurship. While social entrepreneurship may seem like a modern concept, its roots go back to centuries. In the 19th century, Florence Nightingale is considered one of the earliest social entrepreneurs. She revolutionized healthcare systems and sanitation standards in hospitals, and driven by her mission to improve patient care, which had a profound social impact far beyond just medicine. And second fact is about social entrepreneurs focus on blended values. Unlike traditional businesses that primarily focus on profit, social entrepreneurs aim to create blended value, which means generating both financial returns and also social impact simultaneously. This blended value approach challenges the conventional profit versus impact mindset by proving that by doing good and doing well financially can going hand in hand. All right, so that's it for today. And folks, before you leave, do let me know about any social entrepreneur that you have come across and let us feature them on our show. Thank you so much for tuning in and also for being part of our awesome TGV family. So, folks, until next time, take care, stay inspired, and remember the best is yet to come. Goodbye for now. See you all in the next episode with another amazing guest. Take care and love you all. Bye bye.